Hi, my name is Megan Elisa, and I'm a trained evidential psychic medium. Welcome to my channel. If you're new around here, my channel is dedicated to helping people understand more about mediumship development, about spiritual development, about the spirit world, and discussing spiritual topics and offering help and insight for anyone that is developing themselves. Today, we're discussing the sacredness of mediumship. This topic of the sacredness of mediumship really came to me through a talk I was having with a really close friend the other day about the differences between certain people's perspective when it comes to mediumship, maybe why they're doing it, maybe why they're not, and how do we turn this ship basically in the right direction toward moving into the heart, moving toward this understanding more of the sacredness of this work, the different aspects that come with this responsibility of this sort of work that we're doing as mediums, and where do we go from here, basically. It would be disingenuous of me to say that any of us go into this without wanting to be successful in some way with it. Now, is the reasoning behind what we're doing coming from a place of genuine care, wanting to help, wanting to have service for others? That's where we need to sort of check ourselves. What is it about this work that you're doing that is leading you toward those things, more of the sacredness of this journey of spiritualizing yourself as your unfoldment process happens and your development with your mechanics of a medium? How does that impact your spiritual awareness? How does that impact your day-to-day life? How does it change who you are as a person and what you're looking toward, what you're filling yourself with? How does becoming a medium change you for the better? I've been so lucky to have such amazing influences on me from teachers, mentors, things that I love to listen to or research from our spiritualist pioneers of mediumship. There have been some incredibly great examples in my life, in particular, that I can look to for the kind of examples of exemplary mediumship, not only just through the mechanics of it, of, getting accurate information, but the kind of people these people are and were, the kind of life that they lived, the interactions that they had and have with people on a daily basis. So how can we become more mindful? How can we put our knowledge of mediumship, our knowing that it changes us, it spiritualizes us, or should be? How do we use that in our day-to-day life? How do we move into having our spiritual awareness be more of the guide for our day-to-day life? How do we incorporate that in this physical world and remember that every time we engage in mediumship, where we're connecting soul to soul with a disincarnate being, a person that has loved and has lost themselves and has lived a whole life, how do we remember to move into that space in a sacred way? How can you as an individual use this information or use your unfoldment, your development of mediumship, which I hope that you are in development if you're a medium, because it's incredibly important. It's not just about doing the act of mediumship. It's so much more than that. How do we use it? So this is kind of the questions I'm bringing up or thinking about for you to ponder upon. How can you use your mediumship to not only bring about evidence from the spirit world and bring healing from the spirit world for those here, but how can you use it to make your life better yourself or those around your life that you interact with? How can you make your interactions based on this same sacred principle of soul to soul communication, of love, of remembering that the veil that we're under of this physical world, and how easily it pulls us back in. It pulls us back into our ego so easily. And so, how do we continue to try to have balance within that and use this to not only help again during that time of that active mediumship, but how do we use it to do more than that? As a spiritual being, we're constantly learning and growing and unfolding, and my hope is that with doing this video, or with doing this myself, and trying to do these things myself as a person, as a spiritual being, as a medium, that we influence other people in a positive way, that we can take our messages from the spirit world and not use them to say we're better than someone else, or use them to say we know more than someone else, but to use them to help us be better versions of ourselves. So, in my eyes, I feel that part of coming back to the sacredness of the mediumship that we do, besides knowing the reasons why we're doing it, what's our motivation, what are we driving toward, what is the steps or the things that we do in our daily life to bring us back to those. I believe that mindfulness is incredibly important to create the kind of awareness in yourself of paying attention basically to all of these things, to why you reacted how you did on a daily basis, why you responded how you did, which are two different things in my eyes. Reaction, response, two different things. How do we basically remember this sort of act of mediumship as sacred, while we are not only doing mediumship with a client, with a sitter, and making that connection to the other world, but how do we bring that into our lives normally? Media and social media has done both a service and a disservice to mediumship. One, it has helped us to become more normal in the eyes of society. Obviously not for everybody still, but we have become much more accepted as a true practice. And people have been able to learn more about this through things like YouTube or other social media platforms. And in those regards, it's been very positive. On the other hand, it also shows mediumship as more of a act of entertainment in a lot of ways on some of the shows, not all of them. But the idea that mediumship is more of a party trick or something cool that you can do to show people your cool skills is very much not what mediumship truly is about. And this is where the sacredness of mediumship is lacking, in my opinion. And the idea that of how do we combine these more positive aspects of media and learning about mediumship and watching people do mediumship, or learning through means of other social media platforms. How do we combine the idea of, yes, in some ways it has to be something entertaining for people to be drawn in sometimes that aren't already involved in mediumship. There has to be something there that draws them in. And while that's happening, they are still learning, and they're hopefully learning from genuine mediums, hopefully learning from people that are genuinely in this for the right reasons and are trying their best to bring forward information that is helpful and not pop spirituality or things that are just not, in my opinion, really very helpful or going to be a grounded, practical way of understanding this information and using it in your life. So I guess this is a bit of philosophy and mindfulness. And I challenge you to use this as an exercise to sit with yourself and ask yourself where you're headed and why and what you're doing right now in this moment. Are you in a place where you are coming from love? Are you connected to your heart? And it's not to say, we can't always be like that. That's, I'm not a perfect guru, enlightened being. I have an awareness of the spirit world. I have an awareness of myself as a soul. I have an awareness of my behavior, or I try to. And all I could do is go from there. So it's not to say I'm perfect. I'm not, believe me. But how can we continually get better or be more aware? Really, it's how can we be more aware of our actions, of our behaviors, and again, reactions? How can we use mediumship to help us remember? And also, this talk isn't about saying those that do mediumship or are healers or do spiritual work shouldn't make a income or shouldn't make money doing this. That is a completely different topic. I believe that we should be paid fairly for our energy, our dedication, our time, all the money we paid for our own development and schooling. And we live in a society where we have to eat and live, and we have children, we have families, etc. So this isn't to say that to be sacred with your mediumship, that you do it for nothing in exchange. That's just not the society we live in at this time. So it's more to do about, where are you centered? Are you centered in your heart? Are you centered in your ego? Are you maybe a little bit of both? Are you, what is your intention, really? What's the intention? I greatly think that those that are, using their platforms or using their success to help the betterment of people, and help them understand more about this world, help them understand more about mediumship or, the soul in general, that we don't have to fear death. And all of that, I think that is wonderful. So I think that those people that do become successful within this field, I say, great, just use it for something that benefits people and not just yourself. And that I think is what's important when it comes down to this work. So that's where I'll leave you in this talk. I hope that it just brings you to a place of thinking and wondering maybe how you can bring more sacredness into your own mediumship, into your own life. I would love to hear your thoughts about this in the comments. And if you have any other topics or discussions you think that you would like to hear me talk about, I would also love it if you would subscribe and like this video, because it helps get my content out to more people. And if you are not a medium yourself and you're listening to this and you're wondering more about this world or development, I do have a resource page on my website at meganelisamedium.com to help people find books that are helpful for development. Also YouTube recommendations, and this will be growing as time goes on. So if you need more resources, I do have that available as well. Make sure you check out my other content, which is helpful for mediumship development, and I will be making more videos, going over more topics and helpful information for your own development as a spiritual being. See you next time.